It starts with a single throw, 22 seconds left, trailing by 4, and Roger Staubach launches what history will call the original Hail Mary. But that's just the headline. Before legendary comebacks and Super Bowl rings, he spent 4 years out of the spotlight, not by choice, but by duty, trading stadium lights for a Navy uniform at the height of the Vietnam War. In today's game, no star quarterback risks everything for service first. There will never be another Roger Staubach because no one else walked that path or paid that price. Who was the man behind the miracle throws, a hero off the field before he ever became a legend on it? This is the story of Captain America in Cleats. Roger Staubach grew up in the working-class neighborhoods of Cincinnati, Ohio, where faith and family meant everything. His parents, Robert and Elizabeth, raised him on Catholic values, service, humility, and doing what's right, even when it's hard. At Purcell High, Roger was a star on the field, but he was more than just an athlete. He was the kid who would shovel neighbors' driveways, the son who watched his mother stand up against discrimination, the boy who learned early that actions matter more than words. Big Ten schools lined up with scholarship offers. Notre Dame called. Purdue got his signature on a letter of intent. The fast track to football glory was paved and waiting. But then a Navy assistant, Rick Forzano, showed up in Cincinnati. He had come to recruit someone else, but couldn't look away from Staubach's game film. Quick feet, sharper mind, a presence you couldn't coach. Forzano pitched something different. 4 years at the Naval Academy, 4 more in service, and no guarantees. No shortcuts. Just the promise of becoming a leader, not just a quarterback. Staubach didn't dream of the military. He had never set foot on a base. But the idea stuck. Education, discipline, a chance to lead men, and serve a cause bigger than himself. His parents didn't push him toward easy answers. They told him to think about the man he wanted to become. Roger took a prep year at New Mexico Military Institute to get his grades up, then walked through the gates at Annapolis in 1961. He was trading Friday night lights for reveille, stadium cheers for morning inspection, and the easy path for the hard one. The price? 4 years of mandatory service before he'd ever throw a pass in the pros. The payoff? A shot at something that outlasts football. Character, purpose, and a place in history that no stat sheet could measure. In 1966, Roger Staubach stepped off a transport plane in Da Nang, Vietnam, a freshly minted naval officer with 4 years of service ahead and no playbook for what came next. He was 24, newly married, and colorblind. A making decisions that couldn't wait, living with the weight of other men's lives, burned a kind of steel into him. By 1969, when the Dallas Cowboys called him back to football, they weren't getting a rookie. They were getting an officer who'd learned that pressure isn't something to fear, it's something to master. Roger Staubach reported to the Dallas Cowboys in the summer of 1969, older than any rookie in the room. 27, married, with 3 kids, and 4 years removed from college football. Most rookies spent their early 20s chasing stats. Staubach spent his learning how to lead men in a war zone. The Cowboys didn't hand him the keys. Tom Landry had a system, and it was as complex as anything Staubach had seen in the Navy. The playbook was thick, the reads were layered, and every detail mattered. Landry wanted discipline and execution. Staubach brought both, but the adjustment was real. NFL speed was different. Defenses disguised everything. The game moved faster, the windows were smaller, and every mistake got magnified. Landry wasn't ready to name him the starter. Instead, he platooned Staubach and Craig Morton, the strong-armed incumbent. Sometimes they'd swap every quarter, sometimes every series. Neither loved it, but both kept their heads down and worked. Staubach's military background showed up in the film room. He studied obsessively, took notes on every opponent, and absorbed Landry's system like he was prepping for an inspection. He'd missed 4 seasons, but he hadn't lost his edge. When he finally took the field, he didn't play like a rookie. He played like a man who knew every snap counted. The Cowboys had gambled on patience. Staubach brought urgency. That season, he learned how to translate leadership into football, how to trust the system, and improvise when it broke down. The late start wasn't a handicap, it was his secret weapon. In 1971, Tom Landry made his choice. Roger Staubach got the nod as starting quarterback, and everything changed in Dallas. The Cowboys rattled off 10 straight wins to close out the regular season. Staubach at the controls, cool and unflappable. He threw for 1,882 yards and 15 touchdowns in just 10 starts. But it was the way he played that made the difference. He scrambled out of trouble, found open receivers when plays broke down, and never panicked, no matter how loud the stadium or how high the stakes. That year, he led the league with a 104.8 passer rating, a number that stood as the gold standard for the decade. The Cowboys rolled through the playoffs and punched their ticket to Super Bowl VI. Against the Miami Dolphins, Staubach delivered a masterclass, completing 12 of 19 passes for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns, earning Super Bowl MVP honors. He became the first player to win both the Heisman Trophy and a Super Bowl MVP. The Cowboys finally shed the label of next year's champions. Staubach's leadership, part Navy officer, part field general, had transformed a talented roster into a champion. Landry called him the most disciplined quarterback he ever coached. Teammates called him Captain America. The city of Dallas just called him Winner. That season, Staubach didn't just seize the starting job. He set the tone for a decade. The Cowboys became America's team, and Roger Staubach was the face of it all. Fourth quarter, 2 minutes left, Cowboys down. That's when Roger Staubach became something else. He led 23 game-winning drives in the final quarter or overtime, more than any quarterback of his era. Teammates called it the clutch gene. Opponents called it a nightmare. He'd break the pocket, eyes scanning, always believing the game was still his to win. In those moments, the huddle got quiet, the stadium got loud, and Staubach's voice cut through it all. Calm, certain. He thrived with the clock ticking down, engineering last-minute touchdowns that turned losses into legends. The stats tell one story: 23 comebacks, countless hearts broken. But the real story was how he made the impossible feel routine, setting up the moment that would define his legacy. December 28, 1975, Metropolitan Stadium, Minneapolis. 32 seconds left. Cowboys trailing the Vikings by 4. Staubach takes the snap near midfield, pump fakes right, then launches a desperate arc down the sideline toward Drew Pearson. Defensive back Nate Wright stumbles. Pearson hauls it in at the 5, tiptoes into the end zone. Touchdown. Silence from the Minnesota crowd. Chaos on the Dallas sideline. Reporters swarm Staubach after the game. He shrugs, says, "I closed my eyes and said a Hail Mary." In that instant, a new phrase enters the football dictionary. The Hail Mary. Faith, nerve, and precision, fused in a single throw. No one had ever seen a playoff game end like that. No one had ever heard a quarterback explain it that way. From that day, every last-second bomb would carry his prayer. Roger Staubach remains the only Heisman Trophy winner to serve 4 years in active military duty before starting an NFL career. His 23 fourth quarter and overtime comebacks, 2 Super Bowl victories, and the historic 1975 Hail Mary pass are all documented achievements that set him apart. Official records confirm his command of 41 men in Vietnam, and business filings show the growth of his real estate empire after football. Yet the full extent of his impact on teammates and the long-term effects of his military leadership are still partly unrecorded, as some service details remain classified. No modern quarterback has followed a similar path. NFL draft and eligibility rules have changed, and voluntary military service among pro athletes is nearly non-existent. Today, Staubach stands as a rare example of service before self, unmatched clutch performance, and a controversy-free legacy. In every field, military, football, business, and family, his record is clear. There will never be another Roger Staubach.